Ladies and gentlemen, the American jury and Bulldog Nation, I want to begin by explaining to you what yours truly is the only lawyer in the country that apparently thinks that Derek Chauvin and his legal defense made a terrible decision by his not testifying. Now, here's what all of the normal Nimrod lawyers say, all the legal commentators across the country say. They say, well, they want to get him on cross-examination. Oh, there are so many. Folks, Derek Chauvin has already been found guilty by the prosecutor, has already been found guilty by public opinion, has already been found guilty by the news media, has already been completely found guilty. All we're waiting for is the jury to find him guilty, right? How do you get any worse? He can't make it any worse by testifying. But what he can do is make it better. If Derek Chauvin took the witness stand, now there is a sentencing phase where you get to make some arguments, but you know what? Wrong, wrong, wrong. Any very good criminal defense attorney, and I'm going to give a shout out to the late Fred Johnson. We had this conversation all the time. Sometime you're using the trial, the entire trial, for a sentencing phase. Let the jury hear everything. It affects not only what their liability or guilty or innocent verdict is, but also what the recommendation might be. Folks, Derek Chauvin could have taken the stand. He could have explained what he did and why he did it. And he could express remorse to the outcome. He could say, I would have done it different, knowing that I do now. He could have broken down on the stand. Think of the game changer. Folks, there is something in the law called innocent until proven guilty. It's the law, but guess what? If you're on a jury, don't you want to hear from the defendant? Every time I've asked that question in Vondaire, all the hands go up for the panel. All the hands. Folks, you know by now that I'm unorthodox. But I'm telling you right now, I'm a smart mofo. And I'm telling you right now, it is a freaking mistake. These lawyers and these defense lawyers have these cookie-cutter ways of doing things all the time. Plaintiffs' lawyers, defense lawyers. I mean, we laugh at the defense lawyers in the Durrani litigation, how it's always the cookie-cutter thing, and we smoke them. And I'm telling you right now, you don't have to think just outside the box. You got to create your own box. Derek Chauvin is an idiot for not testifying. But I'll guarantee you, you know what it's probably from? His defense attorney telling him not to testify. Here's another thing is, if you are risk going to jail and you're the defendant, don't you want to have your damn say before it all happens? Absolutely. But I'm guaranteeing you, if he testifies, it is a chance of decreasing what he'd get convicted of and decreasing the punishment. And not only that, maybe a hung jury. What if he touched one person? Because if you're trying a criminal defense case, let me give you some little inside baseball. If you're trying somebody who you feel has got hardly little chance, you're trying that case to one juror. A hung jury is a victory. I've watched Fox News, all the legal commentators cross country, Nancy Grace, on and on and on. They're all wrong. I'm right. Sorry. All right. We posted this, or we were supposed to post it overnight. I hope it's getting posted. The Chris Rock video of how not to get your ass kicked by the police. It's a comedy, but it's also true. Let's face it, most comedy has some sense of truth to it. Watch that video. It's a famous video. And think about what everybody's doing that's not following Chris Rock's advice. It's unbelievable. South Carolina Army Sergeant, while everybody condemns this guy, he gets disciplined, and his house is under siege. I'm going to defend him. Oh, he touched him. A push. Big damn deal. In prosecutorial discretion, you just let that go. That guy, that Army drill sergeant, had good reason, I don't know what it is, but I guarantee it's good reason that he was concerned about that guy outside his house on the public sidewalk, nevertheless, and he didn't punch him, he didn't hurt him, he touched him. Now, what is the media doing and saying when all these Black Lives Matter protests show up on his yard? Are they going to be charged with trespass? Are they going to be charged with trespass? I can tell you right now, if Black Lives Matter came to my house and were on my yard, one move, the police would be there. I tell you right now, I'd open up fire with my AR-15 and wax every freaking one of them. It's a fact. I wouldn't sit there and let Black Lives Matter protest in my yard. I'd come out and say, you got the count of 3 to get the hell off my lawn. Unbelievable. Are there going to be any criminal charges for those gangsters hanging out on his lawn? I bet you not. Adam Toledo, they released the video of this 13-year-old kid who's allegedly hands are. Now, that's a frozen moment on a videotape. His hands are up. Frozen moment. Well, guess what? Everything that we know leading up to that, by the way, this FOP union guy did a great defense of Stillwell, the police officer. This kid, 13 years old, is with a 21-year-old out at 3 o'clock in the morning with a gun, was running with the gun, apparently threw the gun through a fence, but the cop didn't know that, said, show me your hands, raise it up, didn't know. In that instant, that police officer shot once because he didn't know. Turns out this 13-year-old kid is a member of a gang called the Latin Kings. 13-year-old gun-toting, 3 in the morning gangbanger. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. They're going to make a martyr out of him too now. It's all wrong. I'm the only one saying it. BREE Newsom of Black Lives Matter says that the riot and looting is justifiable. I'm just going to leave that right there. The rioting is justifiable. That's the mentality of them. I can tell you right now, you know why the Black Lives Matter groups and these organizations riot in these democratic cities? They know they can get away with it. They know they can't go out to the suburbs and they can't go out to the rural areas and get away with it. They do it only because they know they can get away with it. And they shouldn't get away with it. Murders are skyrocketing in democratic cities. Skyrocketing. Now, ladies and gentlemen, the American German Bulldog Nation, I'm ready to lose my mind just like you're ready to lose your mind of these facts and facts and facts that the other side just wants to ignore. If you live in one of those cities, what the hell? Why do you keep voting for Democrats? And then you create these nightmares, all the cesspool cities, and then the Midwest people that have well-run cities, we got to bail you out with the Democratic congressional package. 72% of Americans support the Second Amendment. Well, I'm happy it's that. Again, I always point out, what the hell's these other 28% people? But I'm glad 72% in the poll support the Second Amendment. Maybe there's hope for America. Bongino versus Geraldo. By the way, Dan Bongino is replacing the great Rush Limbaugh. Geraldo Rivera is a chameleon. He always wants to be like cool, like, you know, get embedded with the troops and act like he's cool, embedded with the cops. Like, you know, Geraldo, because he had a show. I mean, he's all about showmanship. Geraldo and Bongino went after each other on this most recent shooting, the Dante Wright case. And I'm telling you, Geraldo ought to be fired or disciplined. Calls him a punk, calls him, I forget what the other language that he used, but it's off the charts. Dan Bongino gets under little Geraldo's skin so much. Geraldo was acting like, oh, you know, this is terrible and blah, blah, blah. And Bongino was explaining very well as a former police officer the taser gun mistake issue. But Geraldo Rivera, I hope, gets disciplined. Are you ready for the next racist thing? We got to make a chart and show it to you because it's hilarious. Infrastructure's racism, Supreme Court's racism. Dairy being served in school is now racist. Dairy is racist. The list of there's something called losing your credibility. When you lose your credibility, forget about it. Come on, man. The far left side, oh my God, well, I can't say come on, man. That's a Biden's phrase. Knock myself in the head for saying it. You cannot make it up what they're doing with this racism. They've lost all credibility. CNN ignored on the news the attack up in Minnesota, Brooklyn Center, the attack on their CNN crew. You believe it? That's how messed up they are. The rioters attack a CNN crew. They don't cover that in their news. DiCaprio on the election issue, Georgia. I'm going to read to you what Leonardo DiCaprio posted, and I'm going to give it to the gang. Hopefully they'll be able to put it up. Georgia Republicans' shameful efforts to suppress the vote and seize electoral power through Senate Bill 202 demonstrate how critical the fight for voting rights remains. What can we do to stop voter suppression? 1, use your platform to publicly denounce these bills. Support voting rights groups. Support federal legislation. 4, visit StopJimCrow2.com with Fair Fight Action and Stacey Abrams. The Georgia election officials, which, by the way, were pro-Biden in the aftermath, weren't they? Weren't they? Damn right they were. And the Washington Post, no friend of ours, right? Both have condemned this Jim Crow bullshit coming out of their mouths. Leonardo DiCaprio, great actor, moron when it comes to politics. Supreme Court has weighed in on the issue of their Supreme Court packing. And I listened to the press, and they said this is a bad idea. And remember what I said, they're going to be the final deciders of it. I listened when I was driving yesterday, the press conference of Jerry Nadler and Company, and it's unfreaking believable. The lies that they spew out. And the reason, why do they do it? Why do politicians lie? Because they know if you're on the left, you don't get checked. They said the Republicans packed the court. That Amy Coney Barrett and Kevin all were packing the court. What? What? I mean, the things that come out of their mouths are incredible. Nancy Pelosi, if you hadn't heard, says she's not going to bring the bill to the House for a vote. The commission's still going on. Joe Biden has apparently been non-committal. But are you kidding me? And along these, the latest of these lines, you're not going to believe this. Representative Mondaire Jones, African-American, Supreme Court expansion is infrastructure. Everything is now racist or infrastructure. By the way, if you want to request funds for anything, just call it infrastructure. Hey, Mom, Dad, can I have some lunch money? It's for infrastructure. Hey, Mom, Dad, can I have some money for the movies? It's part of my infrastructure. Hey, honey, can I buy a pool table for the basement? It's for my infrastructure. Everything is infrastructure now. Hey, can we have sex tonight, honey? It's part of my infrastructure campaign. Start calling it infrastructure and maybe you'll get lucky more. 233% increase in fentanyl coming to this country. Folks, something that I don't hear anybody in the national news railing against the Obama-Biden administration or what they did. Sure, the drug companies peddle the drugs, but folks, Obama and Biden let fentanyl and illegal narcotics pour in this country from the southern border and from China unchecked. They did. And if you've had a child that's been hooked on an illegal drug or a prescription drug, you can lay it at their feet too, not just the drug companies. It's unbelievable. And Biden is now, he doesn't give a damn. The obsession, the collaboration, it's like they're co-conspirators. How do you let fentanyl, which kills people, into this country at an increase of 233%? And if you're a Biden voter, how does that not bother the hell out of you? Again, no takers on the Biden chair. We're going to call it the Biden chair. No takers. Congress came out yesterday. They have no idea where these illegals are going in this country. Congress has the oversight authority on all things dealing with the executive branch. Really? They don't know where all the illegal immigrants are going. It's a clandestine effort. Where can we drop them off? I have these visions of buses pulling up like on a rural road in the middle of Kentucky, and they open up the bus door and they say, "Sayonara." I mean, I got that vision. I mean, it's crazy. Maxine Waters versus Jordan. She told him to shut his mouth. Can you imagine what would happen if a Democrat told a Republican woman to shut her, or a Democratic woman to shut her mouth? Maxine Waters is full-blown political gangster. Full-blown. By the way, I'm going to have a website relative to this issue. Fauci versus Tucker. Tucker Carlson went after Fauci saying, wait a minute, why do you have to keep wearing masks if you're vaccinated? What's the point? And he goes on and on and on. And Fauci just throws out, that's a conspiracy theory. There is something that's a fallacy and argument I learned from philosophy, and it goes on in law business too, that if the facts aren't on your side, we'll just character assassinate the person. You know, Fauci, oh, just because it's so easy for him. Because what? The mainstream media will just take that and run with it. Folks, I'm telling you right now, I believe this. I think Dr. Fauci is an absolute, complete dumbass fraud. He's a complete dumbass fraud. And he's led the way. And it shows. China. It's come out that China has... See, the truth... See, now that the election is over, all the admissions come out. Everybody now is admitting that China does have undue influence over the World Health Organization. And that virus did come from Wuhan. See, it's okay to say that now because the election is over. Russian bounty. Remember this? They went after Trump. Biden came out during the election with a special, my son was a soldier. Boy, if the Russians were putting bounty on American soldiers, this is awful, blah, 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 blah. Turns out it's a complete fake farce report. Does Biden apologize? Hell no. Is anybody going to push him to apologize? Hell no. Just another one of the damn lies used against Trump by the left, which the media and the American Communist tin lets him get away with. Joe Biden. Folks, I have taught a course on negotiations. I have lectured on negotiations. It's been a long time, but I went over to NKU a couple times and spoke about negotiations to some business classes. And I think I still got this PowerPoint presentation, but you know what? I always started off, the number one rule in negotiations. The number one rule in negotiations comes from a quote from Al Capone. I apologize it comes from a gangster, but it happens to be true. Al Capone said, you get more with a kind word and a loaded gun than a kind word alone. What does that mean? What that means is, metaphorically, is that if you got cards to play, you got that loaded gun, you can negotiate with strength besides just saying, hey, can we agree to this? You got cards to play. You got bullets in your gun. You got a loaded gun. It's called negotiation. I was blown away. I railed on this, that Barack Obama, the Obama-Biden administration, had the greatest negotiating position in the world history, which was called American power. And they didn't use it, ever. They discarded it. They wanted to bring America down the side. Trump gets in. What did Trump do? Trump, the man of the art of the deal, used American power to the greatest extent. NATO, you're going to pay for some of this stuff. Mexico, here's the rules. North Korea, I'm sitting there, this is exactly what I would do. Now we're back to Joe Biden, who doesn't use, and nobody believes he'll use it. Proof? Topic next, the next topic. Putin shut down the entryway of the Black Sea. I got to ask you this question. Does anybody out there think that Putin would shut down the Black Sea if Trump was president? Would never happen. Never happen. Everybody's worried about Trump getting us in a war. We're probably closer to a freaking world war now with Biden than we ever were with Trump, which we never were. Twitter has shut down permanently James O'Keefe, the Veritas man who busted CNN and has busted all these other people. So if you do an incredible job of exposing fraud of one of the American Communist 10, you see, American Communist 10, this is how we're going to roll. By the way, I made this list of the American Communist 10. Now, a lot of people talk about some of them, but I've actually formalized it in the American Communist 10 list. You need to study this list. And every time something happens, it's amazing how it's always tied into all 10 of them. They walk lockstep. We are battling the American Communist 10. FDA. I referenced this yesterday, and I've saved it for last. This is what a former FDA person sent to me when I said I think there's something more to it about the Johnson & Johnson vaccine being pulled off the market than 7 or 8 people getting blood clots. I said it makes no sense. They're not telling us something. And all those people that have had the Johnson & Johnson are like, what the hell's going on? I used to work for the FDA, and I think you're right that something else is going on. When I worked there, they told us during a training course with a bunch of other people that if we were not comfortable lying, even to our loved ones, then the job was not for us. They said that the reason behind this was so that they wouldn't create a scare when they didn't know if something was going on or not and wanted to investigate it first. Needless to say, I didn't last very long at that job. For example, during the issue of tampered Sudafed and people getting sick and dying from that, people who worked for FDA were not allowed to talk to their loved ones and tell them not to take Sudafed. Can you say swamp? Can you say evil? Somebody worked for the FDA. I'm a prophet. You watch. There's something going on with Johnson & Johnson outside of these blood clots issue. Last but not least, Wendell Young. Wendell Young came out the day before and said he turned down a deal. The next day he gets charged with crime. I think it was tampering with evidence. So yet, and Lakota Cole just got nailed too. It goes on and on. Now, why do you see this incredible flux of criminality by these city officials? Because they think in the political climate they can get away with it. That's why. Doesn't a child do whatever they're going to be allowed to do? They're going to do it. Doesn't your pet do what you... It's a simple human trait. This is the Bulldog. Every dog has their day. I hope you have a great weekend.